What is up, YouTube? What is up, Canada? Matt McKeever here, and today's Tuesday, so I'm wearing my yellow hat, which means it's like, essentially, we're going to talk crypto, we're going to talk Bitcoin, probably mainly just Bitcoin, but we'll maybe talk about a few other things. I've also got a new mug, so it's Red Mug Day for me as well, so that's exciting. We got some new merch, some new Problems and Profit stuff, but really excited to chat about a variety of things on today's show. We're going to have Tim come and join us as well, but today we're going to be talking about Tesla. So Tesla had their earnings call and or their information released yesterday. So there's a bunch of buzz and stuff going on in that regards. Then in addition, and we're going to talk about whether Elon Musk maybe what his hands are made of, I guess is what we'll be exploring. That's probably the best way to say it. I want to explore with you guys as well an amazing video that came out in the last week that was between Michael Saylor and a gold bug, Frank. I'm drawing a blank on Frank's last name, but it was amazing. Really encourage you guys. We'll link to that in a second as well. And then finally want to talk about some upcoming NFT stuff. So we haven't really covered that before in the past. I want to just touch upon it at least high level in regards to one project that I'm particularly following. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to bring up Tim. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. So it was kind of a rocky start there to the week with Bitcoin, or I kind of forget when that all actually played out now. Time feels so relative, but at least at one point in time, we saw quite a drop off. When was that exactly? Remind me.
Leading into the weekend, so sort of Thursday night, Friday morning, potentially coinciding with the expiry of futures contracts, which is starting to be a repetitive thing on the second last Friday or last Friday of the month, where there's massive amounts of futures expiring. And so the market converges on a maximum pain point to really flush out all the leverage that's in the system. And so that's what people think that we saw. We're still down about 5%, I think, from last week around the same time, but we've recovered nearly $10,000 in pure whole dollar amounts on the Bitcoin price, trading today, around 68,000 Canadian. So I'm a lot happier than I was on Friday. I don't know about you. But I feel as if I was saying the same thing last week, that we'd had this major drop and then a fairly significant correction on the upside just before getting on the call again. So we live to fight another week.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, honestly, how quickly it seemed to recover in a way. But glad to see it do that. At the same time, the timing of it was just funny because now that you're saying Friday, it's triggering my memories. And on Friday morning, I was talking to Adam Martin, and he was just about to, make his first investment in Bitcoin. And he asked me, "What do you think? Should I dollar cost average? Should I just smash buy? Like, what should I do?" I was like, "Man, I don't know. Price seems pretty reasonable to me." I was like, dollar cost average is the smart thing to do. But I was like, I'm also a lazy man. So in your shoes, I might just smash buy. And so he literally smash bought at, I want to say like noon on Friday. I think like from that moment on, it just slowly started deteriorating for him until, I honestly don't even remember, but probably like more than $10,000 in Canadian swing there, right? And I think that it was just funny. But at the same time, before I even told him to consider smash buying, I was like, one, are you buying Bitcoin? Like, are we just in the business of buying it and we're going to hold this for a really long time? Or like, are you viewing this as an investment where you're actually going to panic or be emotionally attached if tomorrow it drops in half? I wasn't expecting to actually see a substantial drop like that, but I'm really glad I gave him that talk before we actually had him buy his first Bitcoin, because that would have been very scary, I'm sure. So first thing I want to talk about is, people owning Bitcoin and whether they hold on to it or whether they decide to let go of some of the Bitcoin. And so I'm going to pull up my screen share here, and Tim, love to get your thoughts. So I'm going to show you a photo and just love to hear whether you think it's true or false. So
let us hands.
Yeah. So first of all, true or false in your opinion, then we'll maybe elaborate for the audience.
False, fake news.
All right. And then do you mind sharing what this all relates to?
Absolutely. So I think it was only in February, just 2 short months ago, that Elon invested over $1 billion of Tesla's treasury in Bitcoin. And then with a new quarterly filing coming up yesterday, they'd announced that he'd sold about $272 million in Bitcoin. So he did a few things for Tesla. He both took profit, which is nice. He has that story to tell. It's certainly not representative of his initial bet. So he's not exactly playing with house money only. But at the same time, he also demonstrated to the naysayers and to the board, and then to a lot of other major companies, that there is the liquidity to be able to exercise $270 million worth of Bitcoin to turn that back into cash at a moment's notice. Now, we don't know whether that was the cause or the reason that, of course, Bitcoin's price fell precipitously on Friday. And I don't think we know exactly when he sold them. We probably have some indication as to the average price per Bitcoin, but it almost doesn't matter. The network is clearing significant billions of dollars every day. And so 270 million is like a drop in the bucket overall. So I still give great kudos to Elon. I don't feel like he sold me out as a Bitcoiner, and I think he's doing a great job with Tesla. So I'm excited for the future, because it provides even more cover to other companies that want to get into the space to see a big fish move big money and get out and get away with it, I guess is what you could say.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna lie, it was fun to see Twitter's reaction. Though at first, I honestly did have mild heart palpitations when I first saw Twitter's reaction, because it seemed like a few of the first tweets on this I saw made it sound like maybe Tesla had sold all their Bitcoin. And I was like, "Who? What just happened?" And I was like, I wouldn't love to see them liquidate their entire position in such a short period of time. But once kind of the facts started to filter in a little bit more and the context of the situation, it definitely seemed less end of the worldy for me, in my opinion. So I'm maybe going to switch my screen share, bring up yours here, Tim, because I know that you had a little bit that you were going to kind of chat upon in that regards as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's still the story of the week for sure to be looking at. So here's just CoinDesk's coverage, which probably explains most of the things that I brought up there. But the Bitcoin cyber hornets, we are absolutely merciless. Someone has created same day Paper Hands Elon on Twitter. And this was created by @Leet Research. I don't know who that is. They've already got 415 followers, including at least one prominent cryptocurrency enthusiast, Vinny Lingham. But he was, at least early in the day, tweeting the value of the coins that he had sold. And so this could be interesting to look at a year down the road. If Bitcoin's price continues to appreciate significantly, just how much that will have cost Elon. I don't think he needed the cash that day, but he may have needed to satisfy other demands from the sort of internal workings of Tesla to make sure that everybody was still happy with that decision. So we'll see how that trade plays out for Elon. I mean, to sell 272 million just 2 months after you bought it, there must have been some pressure. But he also may look like a hero a year from now if the price is lower, that he got out and got away with it.
Yeah, and I think that there's an aspect there that I saw a few more reasonable tweeters tweeting out in that regards as well. And that was just like, listen, when you're actually viewing this from a corporate policy perspective, treasury policy, right? A lot of your major stakeholders aren't going to enjoy it if you see an all-time high and don't take some money off the table, right? And so, while, again, I would love to see Tesla literally never let go of a single Bitcoin that comes into their hands, I can also understand that there's likely a lot of pressure on the board and on, the finance team and just all the other, all the upper management team to make sure that not only does this go well, but that it's got the aesthetics of going well as well. So I think there's multiple aspects or components to this. So again, I think it really is important that people keep the big picture in mind. But one last thing I just wanted to build upon Elon Musk, and then I'll move on to maybe some stuff that's more relevant. I actually love the little feud that Dave Portnoy or whatever Portnoy was going on with Elon, where recently, right before this announcement, he announced he bought a Bitcoin again, and he was never going to sell it, essentially. He was like diamond hands. And then immediately, Elon Musk, just through happenstance, through Tesla, announces that hey, we actually sold some. And so I just thought this was great. They literally released a little press release, but I thought I'd ask you your opinion on this as well. Tim, true or false? Do you think that's,
Sorry, I only took a quick look at that letter, and I just remember Dave writing something like, you can propose to your girlfriend because my hands are so hard, they're diamonds. And, yes. And then alluding to the fact that they might run for president together, Portnoy Musk. And I'm not sure whether Musk is eligible because he wasn't born in America. So it has always been in the back of my mind that if there was some constitutional amendment, that Elon would probably make a better president than maybe Trump did. If you're going to put that sort of celebrity, maniacal CEO type in that chair. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Dave Portnoy. I think good for him for buying a Bitcoin. I think it's funny to think that like I personally own more Bitcoin than mega millionaire Dave Portnoy. But anyways, he can quickly correct that if he feels that that's the right thing to do. So.
Yeah, and I just thought it was very clever of his marketing team and him to take advantage of this to get as much hype as possible. But, I think it could be still a little bit before we're referring to him as the Baron of Bitcoin. But we'll see how that plays out over the coming months. But yeah, again, just thought it was funny. And that is one of the aspects of this whole Bitcoin, Hornet, corn, orange pill culture that I personally enjoy, is that there's a certain level to it that, because I guess it is, magical internet money, that it doesn't feel quite as serious. And a lot of people don't have the same emotional tethers to it the way they maybe would have with real estate, right? So anyways, I enjoy that just kind of from an outsider looking in. But I did want to point out for anyone that maybe didn't catch this, Stansberry Research had just an amazing interview debate between Michael Saylor and Frank Gustra, and just really breaking down the Bitcoin versus gold debate. I thought it was really well done. Both sides were very clear with their language and positions. And obviously, I probably came out on the side of Michael Saylor in regards to who I thought won the debate. But I think that there's a lot of value here, even if this isn't the debate that convinces you to go all in on Bitcoin. I think that these are one of the conversations that if you expose yourself to and really listen to it, you're going to find yourself really warming up to Bitcoin. It's going to become harder and harder to not want to at least expose part of your portfolio to Bitcoin. So I'd really encourage you guys to check it out. It is 2 hours, but I literally think every minute of it's worth it. So whether you're listening at 2 times speed or 1 time speed, amazing points and discussion head in that. So just wanted to encourage everyone to check that out. Not sure if you had a chance or you saw that cross your path, Tim.
I definitely saw it across my desk. I didn't watch it. I definitely think that if you have not had exposure to the arguments for gold, you might find understanding Bitcoin a little harder than average.
Yep.
I know that I was primed to accept Bitcoin by having watched a series of videos by a gold salesman, The Hidden Secrets of Money. And so had I not have seen that years even before I learned about Bitcoin, I just don't think I would have been ready to hang all of the ideas on my mental reference chart. So I did skip that one, but I will watch it eventually. I just have no interest in gold personally. I just think that Bitcoin has done so much better job. I'm already convinced that I don't know what else I could learn. I've spent hours listening to Michael Saylor, and he's a great orator and salesperson. So I'm sure he's got a lot of good nuggets in there. No pun intended.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, really encourage people, especially those of you that maybe are using investment philosophies or approaches like the permanent portfolio. Again, you might have a lot of exposure to gold, silver, other like hard currencies or commodities. And, I think watching a video like that might really open you up or warm you up to the idea of maybe bringing Bitcoin in particular or cryptocurrency in general into that mix. So again, normally we were really just talking about Bitcoin, but there's a couple little things that came up in the NFT world that I thought would be fun to discuss at least briefly on this chat here, Tim. And so before I even get into that, I do want to, just kind of give a caveat or a disclaimer or whatever. I am personally of the opinion that you should likely stack enough sats to have your first Bitcoin before you start dabbling or gambling in the world of NFTs and some of the things I'm about to talk about next. But once you've done it, and if you think that either you just like to gamble or for whatever reason you think you've got some competitive edge over others, I think it can be fun experimenting in this space. But before we start chatting, have you bought or sold any NFTs in the past, Tim, currently, plan to in the future? What's your overall perspective and exposure on NFTs?
No, I'm still sitting on the sidelines for NFTs. I barely own any collectible physical items, and it's just not something that I go crazy for. It doesn't turn me on. I like the idea of collections, and I think collectors are fascinating, and that in your own particular interest set, you can really find some passionate people who want to have a nuanced discussion of the pros and cons of any one thing. But personally, it just doesn't get me going. I still think that, to the extent that every Bitcoin is non-fungible, they're each individually identifiable UTXOs, that's cool. But yeah, I'm not an NFT guy yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely appreciate that perspective. And for anyone that's curious about, where I stand, really haven't done a lot of dabbling with it. Currently have one CryptoPunk, and with hindsight, I wish I probably would have bought a bunch more. And that's the first thing I kind of want to chat about. So oftentimes we hear about things flipping Bitcoin, right? And so like the most extreme Ethereum bulls will be like, when ETH flips Bitcoin, that's when we know whatever, some sort of crazy statement. And so I just thought this was funny and interesting. I don't think that this is even necessarily really a fair reflection of this, but Patty Boy here on Twitter tweeted out, "It's official, one floor CryptoPunk is greater than one Bitcoin. The flippening NFT, blue chip, art history." And so, at this moment in time, the floor for CryptoPunks does seem pretty high, in my opinion. I think it's a product of a handful of different things going on. So you've got the Christie's auction coming up on May 13th, which I think is a big factor. ETH has obviously been in a super bull run, so that seems to also be really compounding the demand for CryptoPunks. First things first, it's absolutely insane on the surface that these things are selling for like $60,000 USD for a floor punk. Earlier today, there was a punk that sold a 6 tribute punk. I believe it was for roughly 1.7 million USD. I forget how many thousand of ETH that was, wow, or hundreds of ETH, but it was a lot. And, I guess the first thing I'll say about anything NFT is when you hear a lot of the critics of it explain this concept to you, they'll explain like NFTs under the light of, let's say you've got $1 million in ETH. Well, what happens if you've got $1 million in ETH and then you mint an NFT and then you buy that NFT from yourself? Well, in that case, you've now got $1 million in ETH and $1 million NFT. And sometimes I get mildly suspicious about some of the transactions I see going on in the NFT world and even in CryptoPunks as well, where, I wouldn't put it past certain traders or investors to be trying to juice things, whether it's one way or the other, try and shift the markets, because these are relatively illiquid markets. There's only like 10,000 punks in existence. So, there's a handful of users that represent more than 1% of the market. So again, because of the nature and the non-fungible aspects as well, I think that it lends itself to abuse and things of that nature. But again, I do think NFTs in one form or another are here to stay. Now, whether that means we see CryptoPunks stay above Bitcoin forever will be fascinating to see. But certainly a year ago, it would have never even been on my radar that was plausible. So I suspect a year from now, we'll know whether this is simply a, exuberance that's completely irrational, or whether there's something going on here where really there is a store of wealth, there's a desire for this art. And then for anyone that kind of wants to go down the opposite rabbit hole, I was going to really encourage you to check out, I think it's today's issue, actually, April 27th. Yeah. Marty Bent's, we're at the VC grift part of the cycle. So for anyone that hasn't read the Everyone's a Scammer from back in 2014, this is a great article. Really encourage you guys, go and play the soundtrack as well, so that you can really get the full Western vibe while you're going through this. But essentially, it just kind of discussed how it's impossible to rob the First National blockchain or the Bank of Bitcoin. So what you have to do is kind of scam people out of their Bitcoin, essentially. Is that's the oversimplified thesis here. And so anyways, I just thought this was interesting, touching upon, some of the current NFT project booms and altcoin booms, and referring this back to ICOs and what went on back in 2017 and 2018. And I guess the few points I really wanted to hit upon here was just a couple quick excerpts. So Bitcoin is an open source distributed peer-to-peer digital currency that works. This fact has led to the Bitcoin network amassing $1 trillion worth of value over the course of the last 12 years. And then so talking about how scammers or maybe individuals that try and position themselves as the next Bitcoin, they believe that by uttering the words distributed and open source and claiming that their wares they are shilling possess those features, that people will believe it and pour money into it. And, they often use terms that create a lot of FOMO, like very asymmetric, a one-way bet like Bitcoin was in its earliest days. And so they hope that just by kind of, a keyword salad, they're able to really convince you and get you to jump in. And so I'll just talk about, like, there's a couple tokens or coins that a lot of people seem to bring up to me on a regular basis. And I'm like, man, again, when I ask them about white papers and things like that, their eyes just go blank. And so, again, here's a quote here: claiming that clout chasing tokens will create a similar return profile to Bitcoin, a network that brought the soundest asset the world has ever seen to the market, is incredibly misleading. Claiming that open source products only become relevant through developer adoption and not the utility they provide to end users is also incredibly misleading. And openly pawning this to the public because your VC fund is seed investor is downright disgusting. Bitcoin, and life for that matter, is a long-term reputation game. There are many out there who are willing to burn their long-term reputations for short-term monetary gains. And that's the part I really want to hit upon here. That's why I'm so nervous about even talking about any other altcoins or things of that nature, because I don't want to see people jump in and get hurt, because I know that right now a lot of people want to find the next Bitcoin. And I think the less research and less information you have, the greater that desire is to find the next Bitcoin. I think the more research and the more familiar you've got, you don't necessarily feel like you have to find the next Bitcoin, and you can actually accept the Bitcoin rather than trying to find the next Bitcoin. So really just want to encourage people to take a step back, make sure that you're actually not just blindly gambling here, or if you are blindly gambling, recognize that fact and come to terms with the consequences and potential risk factors involved with that. Otherwise, make sure we're doing our research, make sure you're not just getting caught up in emotions, make sure there's an off-ramp, right? Is there a way to actually get your money out of this thing? Understand what's been pre-mined or what is like internally owned by the initial founders, the people launching or behind the project. And just be careful if you're a micro-influencer out there. There are some really weird offers that I get as a micro-influencer, and I can understand that if you haven't done your research, it might be tempting to want to make a quick buck and talk about cryptocurrencies or NFTs in general. But again, I think your long-term reputation is at play whenever you do anything on the internet. And so it's important for any micro-influencers out there, be careful with what you're recommending, I think. If you want to add anything to that, Tim, feel free. Otherwise, the last thing I want to chat about was Gary Vee.
No, yeah, that is all good information. I think it's definitely a lot easier to be ethical when you've already made some money. And so if you're just starting out, like I wouldn't like to think as a YouTuber what the kind of offers from all the altcoin shills that are going to be coming in. That's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's actually real consequences to this stuff too, right? If you're involved in one of these scams, like there is the potential the SEC may come after you, right? Like you can get in real trouble. Actually, this is kind of off tangent. I should have found the video before talking about it, but Alex from Ubic, he had his podcast where he used to do a weekly show, and I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but essentially Alex had this weekly show, and he brought on back in, I want to say 2017 or 2018, this guy that was promoting like another random ICO called Cabbage. And like Alex was just asking very honest and open questions. I think he knew that things were suspicious, but I feel like he was acting in good faith, asking these questions and exploring this conversation. And to see the person that was kind of trying to shill this coin just freak out and lose their shit and, really degrade Alex and just call into question his character and his technical abilities and stuff like that. And it's just fascinating because someone responded to that video with a link where that guy's now serving federal time for essentially creating a financial scam, right? Which was this token where essentially he misled investors and kind of duped them of up to $620,000 in Bitcoin and other coins with this, scam, with this ICO, with this token offering, whatever you want to call it. So again, some of these people are very passionate. Sometimes it's even hard to tell. They might even believe what they're saying. But that doesn't necessarily make it true. So this is not a good segue, but segueing into Gary Vee. If you guys haven't been paying attention, I feel like he's been pumping NFTs for a bit now. And in particular, I feel like CryptoPunks is something he pumps regularly. It's what originally got them on my radar and got me to buy one, just kind of as an experiment or a gamble. Again, I'm not really doing much in the NFT space, but I am watching. He's going to be dropping his own token, his own NFT, his own something on May 5th of 2021. And he's going to be doing essentially like a Dutch auction, it sounds like, where the floor is going to be half an ETH. So again, I've got no idea how this actually plays out in the real world, but it'll be fascinating to see whether he's oversubscribed and is able to sell all of it. It sounds like it's going to be over an extended period of time. I don't think that Gary Vee is the sort to want to shill his reputation or burn it on a get-rich-quick scheme where he tries to milk his audience. At the same time, I think it's possible for individuals to be excited and accidentally do those things. I personally get the sense that Gary and his team have likely done enough research and they likely care enough about their brand that they're unlikely to try and go for a quick churn and burn. But anyways, just thought I'd share that. I know that I've got some fans that are huge Gary Vee fans. So if you've been looking to gamble in the NFT space and you want to gamble on Gary Vee, that's potentially a direction you could go. But again, I think that you really need to be careful getting into this space because there's no guarantee of liquidity with any of these projects. But, it was interesting. Gary was talking about how he's actually going to be, he essentially is going to have his own platform, so you can do it through MetaMask. You're not going to be doing it through like OpenSea or Rarible. But this is one of the tweets here where I regularly see him kind of pushing or maybe in my perspective, pumping punks. And that's, fun to look back in 2030. Those projects will be looked at forever. And so again, he's not directly saying anything about CryptoPunks per se, but there's a handful of these tweets that are like, it'll be fun to look back in 2025. It'll be fun to look back in 2030. So again, just very interesting times, but also with it being interesting, I think it makes for very dangerous times for a lot of people with a little bit of money and not a lot of time or research backing them in their decisions. So anyways, if you guys are interested, go check that out. If not, just keep stacking your sats and ideally stack your way to 1 Bitcoin. Before we wrap this up, Tim, anything else you want to add?
I just had the one other story to share, which was published yesterday in Bitcoin Magazine by Pete Rizzo, and it's the last days of Satoshi. What happened when Bitcoin creator disappeared? So Pete did, if I'm going to get this right, he did Pete McCormick's show yesterday as well to sort of celebrate the launch of this story. And so this 10-year anniversary of the creator of Bitcoin's disappearance or kind of going dark on the internet, has just, again, spurred more interest in who that might be and the stories behind it. So if you're at all a true crime fan, even though there's not a lot of crime involved here, or a history buff or that sort of thing, there's a very interesting story. And Pete really digs deep to find all the relevant real data points or actual communications that were out there. So a really great story to read. And you can also listen to some of the content on Pete McCormick's show, What Bitcoin Did, to try and piece all those things together.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate that. I've actually got that article bookmarked, but haven't had a chance to read it yet. So it's high on my list. And again, it's really fun seeing documenting Bitcoin. And there's a couple other Twitter accounts that regularly share and, essentially document the previous communications, right, of Satoshi. And I love seeing like the old bulletin board posts. And, recently it's been about 10 years, or it came up on the 10-year anniversary of like one of his last communications or whatever. As someone that's more of a late joiner here, it's a lot of fun to be able to look back and have those records to be able to explore and just gain additional perspective on. So yeah, really appreciate you sharing that, Tim.
No, my pleasure.
Awesome, guys. Well, if you want to follow along with me or Tim, there's probably links in the video description down below. So go follow along with Tim, follow along with myself. If you guys are interested in buying some Bitcoin and you want to do it through Shakepay, there's an affiliate link in the video description down below. I get some money. You can get some money too. But also just go buy your Bitcoin wherever you want to buy it. Doesn't really matter to me. But would encourage you guys to get into researching it if you currently are. Read the white paper, read the Bitcoin standard, read the article, The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. Watch some of the videos we've recommended. Really, whatever way you like to consume content, just start consuming some content around Bitcoin, familiarize yourself, and once you're comfortable, dip a toe into it, and let us know how it goes. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.